Usually when we think about ancient astrology, our minds immediately go straight to vague prophecies, mystical readings, maybe someone looking into a crystal ball. But what if I told you that one of the oldest astrological systems in the entire world is actually closer to a complex mathematical spreadsheet than a crystal ball? Today, we are demystifying the intense and surprisingly rigorous calculations of ancient Indian Jyotish Shastra. You see, Vedic astrology, or Jyotish Shastra, which is often translated as the science of light, really isn't just abstract mysticism. When you actually dive into the original source texts, what you find is a deeply, deeply mathematical system. We're talking about precise fractional calculations, complex timeline divisions, and weighted planetary scores. It's literally this intricate mechanical clockwork of math that was used to map out human existence. So, think about this for a second. Can the exact trajectory of a human life truly be calculated using mathematical formulas? It's a pretty provocative thought, isn't it? Today, we're going to frame our entire exploration around this ancient search for mathematical order in human destiny. We're actually going to look at the exact formulas they used back then. Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll start with Hora Shastra, move into the Dasha systems, explore the Vimshatari, check out Pinbayu, dig into Ishta and Kashta, and finally, look at the Kundali. Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, Hora Shastra, and the concept of time. To really understand the math here, we first have to ground ourselves in how ancient Indian astronomers conceptualized time itself. The term hora is super fascinating. It essentially means the regulator of time, governing the 24-hour cycle. But linguistically, the ancient texts explain that it's derived mathematically. You take the Sanskrit word ahoratra, which means day and night. You literally drop the first letter A, and you drop the last letters tra, and what are you left with right in the middle? Hora. It's a linguistic reduction that perfectly mirrors the mathematical reductions used throughout the entire system. Moving right along to Section 2, Timelines of Destiny, or Desha systems. Now that we have our basic unit of time, let's look at how that scales up into a human life through what's called the dasha. Now, try to think of a dasha not as some mystical, hazy period, but as a calculated macro schedule of a person's entire life. Two of the most prominent ones are the Vimshottari dasha, which allocates exactly 120 years to a human life, and the Ashtottari dasha, which allocates 108 years. The texts point out that the Vimshottari system, that 120-year cycle, is considered the primary ideal lifespan calculation for the current age we live in, which is known as Kali Yuga. But here's the thing, they didn't just stop at one rigid timeline. The math actually scales. Take the Yogini dasha, for example. Its base chronological cycle is just 36 years, broken down into 8 specific periods from Mangala to Sankata. The mathematicians simply scaled this based on expected longevity. So, 1 cycle for a short life of 36 years, 2 cycles for a medium life of 72 years, and 3 cycles for a long life of 108 years. It's an incredibly modular approach to time. All right, on to Section 3, the 120-year schedule Vimshottari. So how exactly are those 120 years mathematically divided? Well, just take a look at this. Notice how uneven the distribution is in the master schedule? The Sun is allotted a mere 6 years of influence, while Venus gets a massive 20-year block. Saturn gets 19, Rahu gets 18. This really highlights the weighted nature of the system. It's not about equal representation at all. It's a proportional formula, where specific planetary variables carry drastically different weights in the overall equation of your life. And believe it or not, it gets much more granular than that. Let's say you're in your 20-year Venus period, which is known as a Mahadasha. You don't just experience raw Venus for 2 straight decades. The text outline a precise formula for antardashas, or subperiods. To find out exactly how long a subperiod lasts, you multiply the main planet's total years by the subplanet's total years, and then divide that by the total 120 years. It's pure applied fraction work. You're calculating chapters within chapters. Let's move into Section 4. Planetary strengths, or Pindajayu. So we've mapped out when things happen, but how do they happen? Are these periods strong or are they weak? According to Maharshi Parashar's original rules for Pindayu, planets contribute specific numbers of years to a person's longevity based strictly on their geometric positions. For example, when in deep exaltation, Venus contributes a base of 21 years, while Saturn contributes 20. But keep in mind, these are just the starting integers.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how those starting integers are instantly subjected to strict fractional modifiers. The ancient astronomers didn't just guess, they had hard, fast rules. If a planet is in deep fall, which is its weakest geometric point, its base mathematical contribution is cut exactly in half. If a planet is eclipsed by the sun, its points are halved again, with a specific programmed exception for Venus and Saturn. And if it's in a hostile zone, you reduce its value by precisely 1/3.
Which brings us to Section 5, Weights of Destiny, Ishta and Kashta. Getting deeper into the most granular math of our explainer today, the texts contain exact formulas for calculating beneficial and malefic tendencies, known as Ishta and Kashta. To truly appreciate this, just listen to how Maharishi Parshar's shloka reads. It honestly sounds like a high school algebra problem. Reduce one from each of Cheshtarasmi and Ucharasmi. Then multiply the products by 10 and add together. Half of the sum will represent the Ishtaphala. Let's carefully walk through this stepped formula together, translating that ancient text into a clear, actionable equation. Step 1. You take your raw planetary ray values, these are called Rasmis, and subtract 1. Step 2. You multiply those products by 10 and sum them up. Step 3. You divide that sum right in half. The result is your Ishtaphala. That's the quantifiable score of a planet's positive impact. Finally, Step 4. To find the exact inverse, the negative impact, or Kashtaphala, you subtract that positive score from a constant maximum value of 60. And looking directly at the original Sanskrit shlokas and their translations right here, it absolutely proves that these precise steps, the multiplication by 10, the division by 2, the constant number of 60, they are all derived directly from the primary texts. It completely shatters this modern illusion that this was purely an intuitive art. It was a rigorous quantitative science in its time. And finally, Section 6, Practical Application, the Kundali. So we have dozens of fractions, subfractions, scaled timelines, and mathematical rectifications. Where does all of this intense data actually end up? Well, look at these geometric charts, the Kundali. They are essentially ancient data visualization dashboards. And this brilliantly illustrates how every single number in those diamond-shaped boxes is the final output of the fractional mathematics, the dasha timelines, and the Ishta and Kashta weights we just went over. The chart is just the user interface. The engine running underneath it all is pure math. So the absolute crucial takeaway from all these sources is this. To practice ancient Jyotish Shastra properly, you didn't need to be a mystic gazing into the ether. You needed the rigorous precision of an ancient mathematician. It is a vast, interconnected system of fractions, timelines, and weighted scores, trying to bring algorithmic order to human life. Which leaves us with a truly fascinating thought to end on today. If the ancient astronomers were this dedicated to mapping time and human conditions through such incredibly complex mathematics, what other hidden patterns in our daily lives, our societies, or even our destinies are just out there, waiting for someone to find the right formula? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for diving into this source material with me today. Keep questioning, keep calculating, and I'll see you next time.